Have you ever really looked out the window at an airport runway? I mean, really looked at it. That single strip of pavement is one of the hardest working surfaces on the entire planet. Day in and day out, it takes the crushing weight of everything from a tiny little jet to a massive, colossal A380. So how on earth is that even possible? And yeah, that right there, that's the core engineering problem, isn't it? How does one runway, built to last for decades, safely handle such an insane range of aircraft? Well, the answer is in a really elegant system that has just gone through a massive evolution.
So to really get what's so new and exciting about this, we first have to go back and understand the beautifully simple rule that's kept runways safe for years.
Believe it or not, at its heart, this whole system is designed to be really straightforward. For the people who absolutely need to know, the pilots, the airport managers, it all boils down to comparing just two critical numbers.
And here they are. You've got the Aircraft Classification Rating, or ACR, and the Pavement Classification Rating, or PCR. The rule is as simple as it gets. For a flight to be safe, the plane's stress score, its ACR, has got to be less than or equal to the runway's strength score, its PCR. That's it. The plane can't be tougher than the pavement.
So what is an ACR, really? Just think of it like the plane's personal stress score. It's one single number that tells you exactly how much of a punch that specific aircraft at that specific weight is going to deliver to the runway.
And the PCR? Well, that's the runway's strength score. It's the number that basically tells the world, hey, this is how much of a beating I can take. 24/7, no restrictions. Simple, right? But here's where it gets really cool. The magic is in how we now calculate those numbers.
And that brings us to the big shift. While that core rule, ACR is less than or equal to PCR, stays the same, the way we find those numbers has gotten way smarter. They call it a mechanistic-empirical approach, which I know sounds super technical, but it's really just a fancy way of saying we're combining hard physics with real-world data on how things are actually performing.
The key phrase to grab onto here is the whole traffic. We're not just looking at a single plane in a vacuum anymore. The new method looks at the entire ecosystem, every single plane using that runway, to figure out their combined effect over time. It's a huge shift in thinking.
And the concept that makes all of this possible is called the cumulative damage factor, or CDF. Honestly, you can think of this as the secret sauce of the entire new ACR PCR system.
Okay, let me show you how this works. Let's start simple. Imagine an airport where only one type of plane ever lands. Let's say it's an Airbus A330-900. In that world, that one aircraft is causing 100% of the wear and tear. Pretty straightforward.
But, of course, that's not the real world. So let's add a second plane to the mix, an A350-900. And bam, the whole picture changes instantly. The total wear on the runway goes up, and now that damage is split. Our original A330 is causing about 72% of it, and the new A350 is responsible for the other 28%.
All right, now watch this. Let's throw in a couple more planes, including a real heavyweight, the Boeing 777-300ER. And, whoa, the whole chart just flips on its head. That single 777, even though it's just one plane in the mix, is now causing over half, 53%, of all the wear and tear. Isn't that wild?
So here is the big takeaway. It's not just about which plane is the absolute heaviest. That's the old way of thinking. This new system is smart enough to understand that you have to analyze the combined cumulative effect of the entire fleet over time to get a true picture of a runway's health.
So, that's the theory. But how do you take all this complex cumulative damage stuff and boil it down to that one simple PCR number that a pilot needs? Let's break it down.
Okay, the full-on engineering procedure is a lot, but it boils down to a pretty logical process. First, engineers look at the entire traffic forecast for that runway. Then, they calculate that total cumulative damage, the CDF we just talked about. Now, here's the key step. They pinpoint the single aircraft in that whole mix that contributes the most damage. And that one critical aircraft is what they use to generate the final, single PCR value that speaks for the whole runway.
And all of that incredibly complex math and analysis gets squeezed down into this, a simple, standardized code. It's like a universal language for aviation. Any pilot, anywhere on the planet, can look at this short string of letters and numbers and know instantly the runway's strength, what it's made of, how strong the ground is underneath it, everything. It just takes all the guesswork out of the equation.
So you might be thinking, okay, this is some pretty deep technical stuff. And you're right, it is. But getting this number exactly right has massive real-world consequences for airports, for airlines, and even for you as a passenger.
I mean, the stakes here are incredibly high. Think about it. If an airport is too cautious and they underestimate their PCR, they have to put unnecessary weight restrictions on planes. That means less cargo, fewer passengers, and a direct loss of money. But if they go the other way and overestimate it, well, they risk prematurely damaging their most critical asset, which leads to huge repair bills and potential safety issues.
Okay, let me give you a real-world case study that just shows why this new system is such a total game changer. Imagine an airport wants to accept flights from a new aircraft, but on paper, the plane just looks way too heavy for the runway.
In fact, the plane's stress score, its ACR, is more than 25% higher than the runway's strength score, the PCR. Now, under the old rules, that's a hard no. End of story. That operation would be flat out forbidden as a dangerous overload.
But when the engineers ran the numbers using this new cumulative method, they found something remarkable. Because this new plane was only going to be flying in once a day, its actual impact on the pavement's total long-term wear and tear was only a 5% increase. Just 5%.
And that just perfectly illustrates the power of this new system. What looked like a dangerous overload on paper was actually a completely manageable and safe operation. It allows the airport to accept the new route, boosting its business and efficiency, all without compromising safety or the lifespan of its runway. It's just smarter.
So when you put it all together, the benefits are just crystal clear. We get smarter, safer use of the runways we already have. Airports can predict how long their pavement will last with incredible accuracy. Airlines can optimize their flights and schedules. And maybe, most importantly, the entire global aviation industry gets a single, unified standard so everyone is on the same page. You know, it's a complex science of materials, physics, and a whole lot of data. But it all comes down to one little number, carefully calculated, to make sure everything is safe and efficient. So the next time you're on a plane and you feel that gentle bump as you touch down, maybe you'll think about that invisible number, that PCR code that made your whole journey possible.